Good morning, everyone. I think we'll get started. A few people might join us as we get going, but that's okay. Welcome to the webinar, Digital Marketing for Creatives. My name is Tanya Mazza, and I work in the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department for the town of Collingwood. I'm glad you could join us. We based the topic for this webinar on the feedback we received through a recent survey to the local arts and culture community. We hope it will answer some of your questions. Leading this webinar is Bren Frisch, who is a creative marketing professional and owner at Fresh Media. Ben has been working with the Small Business Enterprise Center in Collingwood for the past year, helping businesses build an online presence and promote and sell online successfully. Ben?
Oh, great. Thank you, Tanya, for the introduction and for putting this together. I'm really excited to be here and to help fellow artists with some digital marketing knowledge and just pass on as much as we can. If you can see in the background, I got a bit of art there. So I do come from a fine art background and spent many years pursuing art before I sort of landed in a marketing career. And so this presentation is essentially a little bit about like what I wish I knew after 15 years of marketing, what I wish I knew as an artist at the time. So I'm going to jump straight into it and start sharing my screen here. And everyone should be able to see that. So I've got a lot to share, so I'm going to try and get through this quickly. And just another point about questions. We do have the chat box. Please put your questions in the chat, and we will try to get to those before the end of our session. And I just have to open it up here so I can see. Okay, so just another background on Digital Main Street is the program that I've been working with through the South Georgian Bay Small Business Enterprise Center. This is an Ontario-wide initiative that the Small Business Enterprise Center brought to this area. Essentially, it's about enhancing the digital marketing of Main Street businesses. Now, especially with COVID-19, that Main Street designation is definitely expanded, and we're really trying to help as many people and business owners and even artists like yourselves enhance their digital marketing, because it's become such an essential part of doing business right now. So you can follow us at SBEC on Instagram or on Facebook. That's the Small Business Enterprise Center. My Fresh Media handle is there as well. We also have a Enterprise Center page where we have a calendar that you can book a consultation for free with me, and my email is there as well to reach out if you have any follow-up questions. And again, this is a free service that is available, and just announced recently was Digital Main Street's new initiative, which is called Shop Here. Essentially, it is the ability to get a free e-commerce website for your business, and they even mention at-home businesses and artists will be eligible. So that's amazing news. And we don't have much more information about it right now, but it's coming. So I've included I've included a link to it further on in the presentation. So with that out of the way, let's jump straight into embracing digital marketing in your business. And I think it's really important to consider, as an artist, you're a business owner, right? And I think first and foremost that has to be taken into consideration in order to make a living and succeed, right? So when it comes to digital marketing, this statistic I think is really important to understand, that 85% of buyers are interested in doing research online before going into store. So it's not necessarily about just selling online, although right now that is pretty important, selling online. But we understand as marketers that human behavior is such that people really want that tangible experience. They want to research a lot of things online, but really, we tend to prefer to buy things in person. We like to see it and feel it, and really get a sense of what that item is, especially when it comes to artwork. My thing with selling art in the past was always, I understood that when you tell someone the dimensions of a painting or a photo, 18 by 24 means something to you, but for general public, it's really hard to get a sense of what is that size? What does it look like? How would it fit within my home? And that kind of thing. So that remains to be a focus, but obviously right now, buying online is an integral part of staying in business in this market. But so when with respect to this presentation, what we're going to be kind of diving more into is your online presence, including your website, search engine optimization, and local business page. So specifically Google My Business listing. And we're going to talk about social media, content, and email. I'm going to kind of sprinkle throughout. Those are kind of two fairly big topics as well. There's lots more learning. I forgot to mention at digitalmainstreet.ca is ongoing. So the program itself included an education program, a training program that's free to any business owner or individual who wants to learn about digital marketing. So all of this content that you're seeing here, I've basically pulled, or most of it, I've pulled from those training modules. And so I highly recommend that if there's something I'm not covering, if you want to continue your learning, check out Digital Main Street to register for free and sign up for that and just get started on that training program. So when we talk about improving your online presence, the real importance of it is about building your brand, making you more accessible to customers. So when we talk about that 85% of people who are doing that research online, it's really important that they can find you when they search for something, that they are able to get the information they're looking for so that they can, get in contact or buy or whatever it is that is, that next step. So it opens up your business to a larger audience. It allows you to build relationships and trust, and it makes it easier to market your products and services, especially when you have that audience that's following you, that's interacting with you and engaging with you. When you do, maybe an outdoor art show or an exhibit, you can, leverage that audience and draw more people to your shows or your exhibits. When it comes to getting started with your, transforming your digital marketing, it's important to start off with an audit. And this is something that I've been doing a lot for businesses all across the region. It's a great starting point to say, what do we have? What do we not have? What's working? What's not working? And kind of put together a report card. Once again, here is a link. Actually, I forgot to share in the chat box. I'm going to put a link to a link to this document that you can download so that you can access these all of these links that are here within it. So be sure to check that out. And And again, digitalmainstreet.ca. The online enrollment includes a digital assessment. So the audits that I'm doing for businesses go much more in depth, and we look at every property that you have that's public facing, and give you a report on that. But digitalmainstreet.ca, their assessment just is a great place to start and think about, do I have a website? Do I have a blog? Do I have an email list? And it starts to kind of build a to-do list of things that are, high priority to get you on the right track. So when we talk about creating an effective website, it starts with a domain. Many of you might already have a domain, but if you don't, just some things to keep in mind, that you really want it to be easy to read and type. You want it to be short and not use any slang or non-conventional spelling, because that can really kind of mess people up and make it hard for them to find you. Avoid using confusing numbers and hyphens and things. Just really short and sweet. A lot of artists I know use your name. That can be really helpful. And when it comes to the .com or .ca, just some small things to consider. I mean, .com is the most widely used extension, and .ca can put a Canadian stamp on your business or on your artwork, and it can be seen as a huge benefit where Canadians, we have a good reputation and we like to shop local. So you always have the option to, use both and direct one to the other. That is something that I had done with my website for sure, just so that I always knew that I owned those domains and no one else could take it. Because if someone else does have your exact name, they might end up buying that, and it becomes unavailable. So when it comes to the design of the website, it's really important to consider, keeping it really clean, easy to navigate. You want great photos and videos, and SEO friendliness is really important. And we'll get into kind of each of these in a little bit more detail. So when it comes to clean design, font is really important. Just really crisp, clean font that is easy to read. Sometimes it can be hard to avoid. I know, like when I was making my website, I wanted it to be very artistic looking, but sometimes those fancy fonts can really make it hard to read, and that's not what you want. You want it to be just very clean, legible, and you want to favor those sans serif fonts. Stick to using 2 primary fonts is a great kind of rule of thumb, where your headings might be a little bit more artistic, and then you want something for the body copy that's really easy, just like Arial, Open Sans, Proxima Nova are some examples there. But just sans serif, really simple, clean fonts. With colors, branding is a big part of this. So your personal brand is just as important as, a corporate brand like Coca-Cola or Pepsi. You want to kind of pull from that corporate world, I think, in the way they've done things, in being consistent with colors. And those colors should be matching primary, secondary colors. Hopefully you're well aware of what that means as an artist. I'm sure you are. And you want those to really represent your brand's personality. So keep that consistent by using exact color codes. If you're using Photoshop or other programs, oftentimes there's a hexadecimal code that you can use to make sure those are always exact. excuse me, losing my voice a little bit. White space is always really important. Again, clean, keeps things really clean, easy to understand and to follow when it comes to your website design. And use the colors, to highlight the things that are most important for your visitors and worth focusing on. So these are hopefully, practices that you incorporate in your artwork, and if you can match that to your style or your to your art, then all the better. It will really speak to your brand consistency and your own personal style, which is great. So navigation is really important to keep it simple. As you map out your website, make sure you keep those navigation headings just really short and sweet, and keep it uncluttered. So you don't want it dragging off onto 2 lines, or having menu items that are incredibly long. You want to make sure your logo is there and of high quality, and you want to separate your call to action so that it stands out. So call to action being, what is the most important thing that you want people to do, or respond to when they're on your website. So if you have a shop and you want people to buy, then that's your call to action. You should have that highlighted above the fold, they say. So that being in the top part of the website that doesn't require any scrolling, the first thing that you see on the screen. When it comes to your copy, it's really important to use plain language, tell a story, be authentic. This is where you really want your personality to come through, and a lot of that story about your own style, and what are your influences, and what drives you. That's what people are going to connect with the most. And as artists, I think it's a huge advantage that you have over those corporate brands, where that story and that energy, I guess, is it's just ingrained in what you're doing. Whereas someone trying to sell a shirt, they have to really struggle to create that inspirational story. Whereas artists, again, I think have a much easier time in drawing that out and sharing it with people. So really, you want to use that to your advantage as much as possible. They say use humor as well. That's a great way to just connect with people. And you can provide, information and share knowledge about, different topics that you're really fond of, and say the most in the least amount of words. That's always kind of important. But as we get into SEO, maybe a little contradictory. We want to try and expand on things in some places. But here's an example of an artist website, someone from Toronto that I've followed in the past. So it's just an example of a clean website, simple navigation. You can see, there's a call to action right in the middle of the page here, with new prints that are for sale. She's also got her social media icons, very clear, nice and big in the main header. There's not too many navigation buttons, and right off the top, like her logo's very clear, pops really well, and we see there's a shopping cart. So immediately we know we can buy stuff here, which is a great a great thing to include in your website. Just another shout out for Digital Main Street. When you visit the homepage to like log in or sign up, again, this is just a really great example of clean design, and this is what I mean by above the fold. What we see here is the first landing page, or the home page, and you don't have to scroll to see any of this. This is everything you see right on the screen, and it explains almost everything you need to know about what is Digital Main Street. It's helping Main Street go digital. It's free digital how-to guide to help you grow your business. And they give you, here's how it works. Step 1, 2, 3, and sign up. Super simple, really clean, direct to the point, and just a really great example. So when we talk about great photos and videos, you want to make sure you feature captivating images and video on the top of your homepage. So again, draw people in with those fantastic images above the fold. Make sure that those images are continued throughout your website. You want to try and keep a style or a look that is consistent throughout. But those images are going to help grab people's attention, draw them in, and tell your story. And again, above the fold, really important. So when we're going to talk about website speed in a minute, but a big part of what can slow down a website is images. And what I recommend a lot of business owners do, and artists even, is to, if you're taking photos of your work, you don't necessarily need to invest in expensive camera gear. A lot of people use their phones, and I think it's highly effective and it works really, really well. But one of the main problems that people don't realize is that your phone can actually shoot incredibly high resolution images. And so while those are great to have and great quality, it doesn't work well for websites. So what we need to do is compress those and reduce them in size so that your website can load quickly and you're not slowing people down, because you can often lose potential customers or clients or just people interested in learning about your website. If it's not loading, they'll just exit right out. So what I have here are a couple examples of compression options. So there's a free online tool called tinyjpeg.com where you can actually just upload your JPEG images and it will compress it, and you can download the smaller image size and file. And JPEG, of course, is one of the most common file formats for images. It's very efficient at compressing the file size without losing quality. And it's better than PNG. They tend to be a larger file size. But if you do need a transparent background, PNG is your best option for that. And if you're using WordPress, there is a variety of image compression plugins that you can use, and I've got a link in the document there to learn more about some of those options. So when we talk about where to build your website, there are tons of options. I was just talking about WordPress and some of the plugins. WordPress is a great option. It's one of the most popular platforms in the world. I think it is the most popular platform in the world, which does have a bit of a higher, steeper learning curve. There are some technical things that you need to kind of hoops to jump through in terms of getting your hosting set up, launching the WordPress website, and then picking and customizing your theme. It can be a little overwhelming for some people, especially if you don't have any kind of web developing experience. And then we've got other platforms like Wix and Squarespace, which eliminate the need for hosting because they host the site for you. They can be a lot more user-friendly, and but that being said, there can be a bit more cost involved in those, whereas WordPress can be definitely a lot more cost-effective for most businesses. Shopify being one of the most expensive options, probably, depending on your functionality that you need, but Shopify is one of the best platforms for e-commerce. So if you are selling a lot of work and you think you have the income from that to support a Shopify site ongoing, that can be a really great option. I think that's all I wanted to say about about those website platforms. Again, if you have any questions, I know I'm just grazing over a lot of things right now, so be sure to leave them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them before the end of our session. So once you've got your website built, and it's important to understand even actually before that responsive sites are no longer an option, but a necessity whose need is continuing to grow. So responsive meaning that the content is, it resizes to fit whatever screen resolution the user is viewing it on. So, originally, people would use the term mobile friendly a lot. And the difference between mobile friendly and responsive is that mobile friendly doesn't necessarily take into consideration all the kind of different phone sizes and tablets and all these other devices, whereas responsive will just shrink and expand to whatever the device. And so as you're developing your website, you really want to keep this in mind because mobile traffic is only growing exponentially. It's not going away. It's something that we all have to consider, is that providing that mobile experience for people is incredibly important. So making sure that your website looks good, functions well on a mobile device is something you want to do before you launch your website. And just going back to those platforms that we mentioned, WordPress. So WordPress, it depends on your theme. So you want to make sure that if you are installing a new theme in your WordPress website, that it is responsive. When it comes to Wix and Squarespace, I believe by default, they're pretty good. Just depending on your layout, I think you have to sometimes just be a little careful about where you place certain items, but they're typically built to be responsive, and same with Shopify as well. And each of them, as you're designing your website, you can click through to see a different view of the pages to make sure that they're looking as they should on different screens. So here are just a couple of questions if you are outsourcing to a developer, because it's not always for everyone to build your own site. So if you are reaching out to a developer, here's some key considerations. So you want to ask, can I see past work on other projects? What types of clients do you typically work with? Hopefully they have experience working with someone in a similar industry, with other artists or photographers. What type of timeline can you work on? What platforms do you commonly work with? So most web developers that I know work with WordPress as an example. And yeah, like, can we work together on a daily basis, or how does you want to understand that process of how that works, and so that you know exactly what you're getting into. Another really important thing to ask is, will I receive admin access and or login details? Because this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, where a business owner has a developer build a website for them on a platform like Wix or WordPress that's meant to be very user-friendly, and that's owned by the business owner, but the developer does not share the login. To me, that's it's not necessarily a nice thing to do. It's a little bit of a hostage situation. It can be, if you want to make changes or move to a different supplier or vendor to help, and that person does not want to give over the admin access. It can get kind of nasty. So you want to make sure that that they're comfortable with that that's part of their process, is allowing you access to those systems so that you can control them, because you own it. So moving right along, search engine optimization. Again, this is a really big topic that I'm going to just really kind of graze over, kind of hopefully give you some best practices that you can implement, or hopefully start the process of just learning more about what is it, how can I improve my search engine optimization. So just a quick overview of what does that even mean. It's the process of affecting the visibility of a website in a search engine's organic, meaning unpaid search results. So here in this example, we see, the ads are always up at the top or on the side, and then you'll see the organic search results, and that's where you want your website to appear. There's so much focus on SEO because if you can get your listing, your website in the top of that search without having to pay to be in the ads, then it's very effective, and it can be worth your time and energy. So search engines can identify every website on the internet, but to be listed in search results, your website needs to be well thought out. And here's how we can do that. And here's a better actually graphic of how that looks in the search. You've got your paid ads on top and your organic search results below that. So it has a lot to do with keywords. And so keywords are just simply words and phrases, collection of words and phrases that someone enters into a search engine to find what they're looking for. So in this example, they've put, best bakery shop in Kitchener. So these words are really important to, include in your website, so that Google knows that your website should land in the results of that search. When we kind of break that down, we've got best bakery shop, as an example of someone doing research on this topic. And best bakery shop in Kitchener gives a little bit more indication that this person is ready to buy. So Google has a really strong understanding of how people use keywords and how they can serve websites up to people in the best possible way. And here's how we can sort of improve our website or optimize it, as they say, to appear more in those searches. So it used to be that you would just cram those keywords in your description and your alt tags and things like that, sort of in the back end of your website. But Google has become a lot more sophisticated, where they really have a good understanding of what is the content on all of your pages and how is it laid out. Again, they look at your website speed and how effective is it on mobile as well. So again, all of those things play a really important role in how you're ranking in your website. So when we talk about organization, here's just a really simple diagram that shows, so navigation wise, how you should be laying out your website so that Google can really understand what it's about. So having those defined pages and subpages that are clearly labeled will really help your search ranking. So, and just to give you an example of, contrary to this, it has been very popular in the past to do single page websites where just you've got everything on the page and your navigation will just jump down the page to whatever, the about section is lower, and then there's the contact info is lower than that. But that really works against you in terms of SEO, because Google has a harder time of understanding what is this web page about, because it's just about so many things. So by breaking those out into different pages, it allows Google to really just understand the layout of your site, what's on it, and where to direct people. And that's really important. Here's an example of a website tool for measuring the speed of your site, pingdom.com. I'm going to have to kind of pick up the pace because I'm falling behind a bit. But essentially, you want your Google says, 2.5 seconds is your below 2.5 seconds is your kind of optimum speed. So making sure that your image sizes are small and your page is loading quickly is really important. Your website host can play a role in that as well. So choosing one that has a good reputation for speed is important as well. When we talk about the content, again, that plays a role with your SEO, because Google will log all the information on your page. So you want to make sure that, if you're doing like a blog, let's say, that can be really effective. You want to make sure those are really clearly written, unique, high quality content on every page. They should be at least 300 to 500 words. So this gives Google, a really good understanding of what can be found on this page. Again, blogs can be a really effective way to just add that content and that unique copy to your website to end up in more searches, and perform on-page optimizations on all website pages. And so there are different tools. If you're using WordPress, there's things like Yoast SEO. Yoast SEO is a common tool for helping you optimize your blog posts. Just seeing someone ask right now, the website test speed service link, pingdom.com was the name of that one. And if you check out the chat box, there's a link to this document. There's a hyperlink directly to that service. Again, images. When it comes to SEO, images play an important role as well. So there's usually an alt tag and description. The file names are really important. So you want to think about going back to the keywords. What are people searching for? What are some of the terms that define what it is that I do? And try and match those up and include that kind of language in your photo descriptions, in your photo titles, and anywhere they fit naturally. So you don't want to necessarily cram it in. You want to make sure it fits the image that you're describing and the placement. The last thing I think I want to say about SEO is a tool called Google Search Console. So essentially, it allows you to have a direct line of communication with Google in a sense, where you're uploading a sitemap of your website that gives Google a much better overview of what content they can find here. And that will really help you kind of expedite any big changes that you might make, because in the past it was just Google would eventually sort of crawl your website, log all that, but that might take weeks, it might take months, whereas Search Console, it can be a much more effective tool for submitting your website to the search engine and making sure they understand it properly. And so I've got a link here that is a more lengthy how-to video of how to get that set up. And it's a really great resource. Lots of other things to consider that, again, I'm just grazing the surface on, but your Google My Business listing is really important. So that is the listing on the side of the Google search results. Usually when someone searches for your exact business name, it's really important in getting your listing, making sure all your information is there and correct. It's going to really help people find you, help people find the information they're looking for. I know with a lot of artists and at-home businesses, a lot of people don't necessarily want to include their home address, and that's understandable. So I think maybe two workarounds for that is you can include a service area. So instead of like a pin drop on the map to show this is where you live, it's more of like, here's a range of areas that we serve, or maybe it's your delivery area, something like that could be one option. Another option, something I do, is I just rent a mailbox at a co-working space, and so that's my business address, and that's where my Google My Business pin is dropped. And so it's it's an additional fee, but again, it avoids putting my home address on the internet, which I can understand people having reservations about. Three other things to think about when it comes to SEO: external links. So anywhere you can find online to post links to your website is going to really help you out. So if that's someone else blogging about you and they include a link back to your website, or even on social media, links everywhere you can to your website, those are going to help Google to rank you, and they like sending people to more popular websites where they know that you're going to probably find what you're looking for. That's one way that they determine that, is by those external links. A bit more advanced would be user behavior. So making sure you have Google Analytics set up and understanding and improving the user experience. I could go on all day about that, so I'll just kind of move on. But Google Analytics being a great tool for understanding how people are interacting with your website. And video. Video is a really great tool for not only engaging with your audiences, but for getting them to stay longer on your web pages. And that's what Google really likes as well. So it's about that user behavior, keeping people on your website, keeping them engaged. And video is also a really key element of social media, which is a great segue into some best practices. So I'm going to really try and race through some of this because I'm a bit, I got a lot here. But when it comes to social media, you really want to try and plan out your content. What is your story? And it all comes back to that brand element. again, your brand is, is the most important part. It defines you, it defines your art in your business. And you want to make sure that message and that story is consistent throughout all of your marketing material, especially on social media. Again, consistency is really important in terms of the look and the language and the voice. Keep it consistent. When we talk about content planning, you want to bank or plan out your content ahead of time whenever possible. So having a bulk of images that you can just pull from and create posts. There are lots of tools that will allow you to schedule your posts in advance to make it really easy. You can create, design different graphics and quotes and different things, and even repurpose content is something that a lot of people don't necessarily do, but it's an easy way to just keep that flow coming. And because, even if you shared something a year ago, it's not going to necessarily be in everyone's memory that they say, oh, you posted that just 18 months ago. They probably didn't see it. So refreshing that, sharing old content is a great way to keep it going. When it comes to photos and, you want to make sure you have good lighting, be mindful of the sizing and orientation of your photos. So based on whatever platform you're using, make sure that branding consistency is there. And, another option or thought is to have contests and giveaways to just keep your audience continually engaged. We're going to just, again, kind of cover off a little bit of each of these key platforms. Facebook and Instagram being the most widely used, I think, especially for business owners, entrepreneurs, and artists. They have, a broad audience base and offer a lot of advertising opportunities. So they're really great platforms. And here's just kind of a breakdown of the sort of top three, including Twitter. So Facebook being the most popular. It's, again, widely adopted by different age ranges and demographics, and there's a lot of advertising opportunities there. Instagram is definitely more visual, so that makes it a really fantastic tool for artists specifically. And it's got built-in editing and filters and all kinds of fun stuff that you can do to those photos. And it is one of the fastest growing social media platforms in the world. And Twitter is an interesting one that I don't necessarily recommend to a lot of business owners, but I think as artists, it can play a factor in or play a role in your branding element and your story, because it's focused on sort of the here and now, the global conversations that are being had. And so if you want to be a part of that and sort of like build your brand through contributing to those conversations, then it can be a really great tool for that and something to consider. Facebook, you want to make sure that you have a Facebook page to represent your brand and to open up all those advertising tools that are available to you. When it comes to what you should post, you want to make sure those are promotions, just brand building stuff, organic content. They say the rule is sort of 80-20. You don't always want to be selling all the time. Keep that to kind of 20% and 80% of the fun stuff. Just, what's happening now, what are you working on? What are some of the things that are going on with your business and with your life that your audience will want to hear about? When we talk about Instagram, you want to customize your profile and give reasons to follow you. So You know, again, I think being an artist and having access to a lot of content in terms of maybe like your work process, your works in progress, all these different things that you might be doing can make for great content for building audiences and sharing great photos with people. You want to make sure that you're using relevant hashtags, and though hashtags can be a really good way to broaden your scope of who can find your images. You know, if you're using hashtag art, it's going to open you up to, you know, a global audience of people who are interested in just things related to art. Now, mind you, using hashtag art would make it maybe hard for people to spot you, because there's going to be just millions of images that are using hashtag art. But so if you were to use something a little bit more specific, like hashtag Collingwood art, then it kind of shrinks that pool a little bit, but it kind of still gets you into a wider audience beyond just people who are following you. So setting up for Instagram, Instagram for Business, you want to make sure you download the app, establish your business profile, connect your Facebook business page. Now, we did have a question right at the top. Someone was mentioning that they work on Instagram. They want access to the business tools that you get when you do this, but they don't necessarily want a Facebook page. My recommendation for that would be, like I know some business owners and actually a photographer who has multiple Instagram profiles, but she only has one main Facebook page, and you can't connect an Instagram profile to multiple to one Facebook page. So she actually has just kind of dormant Facebook pages just so that she can have her Instagram business account. And that would be my recommendation, would be to just create that page. You don't have to send people to it. You don't have to maintain it. As long as it's there, you'll have access to all these tools. And it's, you know, I would recommend that over not switching your Instagram profile to a business account. With Twitter, I'm going to just kind of graze over Twitter a little bit, but YouTube can be a really great platform for sharing knowledge and information. So if you're interested in teaching, or, you know, building an audience of other artists, maybe of people who want to learn from you, YouTube can be a fantastic platform for that. LinkedIn can be more of a professional platform, but I would say as artists, I think it's still really appropriate in that it works more like a resume. So having a profile there can add a lot of credibility to your name and your brand, because, you know, you can put up all your education, you can put up a variety of your, you know, skills and references and things like that. And ultimately, you know, these profiles will show up in the search results when people are looking for you. And the more of those search results that can relate to your own profiles and properties, the better. You want to kind of dominate that page. So in that sense, I think LinkedIn can be a really effective tool for that. Not necessarily one that you have to engage with constantly, but it is an option. Video, again, just, you know, really important and effective for connecting and building audiences. Instagram is a great platform for this with stories, and it's a fantastic way to just, you know, keep that content flowing. When it comes to paid advertising, you want to make sure that you're defining your objectives, you're setting your key performance indicators. You're not just hitting that boost post button and putting $20 on it. Again, yeah, you want to really understand how how it works and what options are available to you, because it's really easy to throw your money away without kind of putting some real thought into how that works. And again, digitalmainstreet.ca has some great training on building social media campaigns for your business. When it comes to outsourcing your social media, if that's an option for you, you do want to just ask what kind of experience they might have. How do they track performance? That's a really key thing is, how do you know that they're doing what they're saying they're doing and that it's working? And if they work in similar industries as yourself, all the better. And you want to meet regularly and keep on top of that to make sure that that it's working and that you're not wasting your money. When we talk about places to sell your work, Facebook and Instagram are a great place. So those are free. Facebook specifically has a shop. So if you do set up your Facebook page, it's really simple and easy to set up a shop tab on your Facebook page. I've got lots of resources on that. If anyone is interested, it's free, it's simple, it's pretty straightforward. The Digital Main Street shop here that I mentioned at the top, again, this is a new initiative from Digital Main Street. It's not available yet in this area, but it's coming within the next week or two. They should have a registration to sign up to get a free e-commerce website, which is amazing. It's just blows my mind how awesome it is. But Collingwood Commons is another option. So this is an initiative that was started by a local company business owner, Brandon Houston from Switch Video. And there is the ability there to create a business profile, a page, and start selling work. And they're not charging any commission. There's just a processing transaction fee from the credit card processing company. And that's a pretty standard thing. You have the option to use e-commerce websites. So all those website systems that I mentioned earlier, WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, and Shopify have the ability to incorporate e-commerce. Shopify, again, being the most common or probably user-friendly in that sense, but potentially one of the most expensive ones. WordPress has the ability as well to incorporate an e-commerce plugin to sell your work. When it comes to external platforms, and I think someone asked a question about these external platforms. So places like Etsy, Artfire, or Saatchi Art. I had to look up. I remember that one though from back in the day. Here's what I want to say about that. Yeah. So some of them, can charge a hefty fee. The benefit to having your own e-commerce website is that you control it. You're not getting hit with those fees, unless you have to kind of weigh that against the cost for a Shopify or Squarespace website, or there will be some cost associated, but you have to kind of weigh that out versus the transaction fees that they're charging on some of these other websites. So having it on your own website, you have that benefit of controlling everything and limiting those costs. But you are then forced to create that audience and drive that audience to your website. And that's where social media becomes a huge, it plays an important role. Your email list, generating or maintaining and engaging with an audience to keep people coming back to your website becomes vitally important. Whereas some of the draw from some of these websites like Etsy can be that, you know, they might say they're driving the traffic to you. And I'd say, yes, that is definitely a benefit. But in my experience, it was still just as hard to get people to find me within those platforms, because yes, there are people going to Etsy to buy things all the time, but are they searching for you, or are they searching for what kind of art that you're making? That's a big question. And it might not be as easy as they make it seem. So even if you put your artwork on some of those sites, it can be just as challenging to drive people there in order to buy it. So yeah, my recommendation would be to house it on your own website. If you do have, an Etsy page, I think it can definitely be beneficial. My recommendation would be to stick with just one and focus on it, and focus on making that external shop as good as it possibly can be, because that was something that I fell into, was trying all of them, and they were all, missing information, and they were all they weren't as maintained as if I had had just one. And I focused on, my efforts on that. I think that would have been something that I really wish that I had done as an artist. So this was another question that we had about teaching. And I think, right now this is a great opportunity to share learning and share courses for people who are interested in, learning from you, the artist, the expert, to do art themselves. So one option for that would be Facebook groups. So if you have a Facebook page, that page can create groups, and you can control the membership of that group. So if you wanted to charge money for that, you can do that. It's not an internal functionality, so you'd have to do it very manually, so they either send you an e-transfer or work out the payment outside of Facebook and then let them into the group, something like that. But it can be an option. And then you can post, you can post content within that group that only those members will see. And it can be a great way for, generating income for those types of courses and that knowledge. Teachable.com is a platform that is specifically for creating courses. And I've been on the lookout for something like this for a while. I think it's a really cool website that allows you to build those courses. You charge money for them. That is a functionality built into their site. And that's what's awesome about it. And so you can charge membership fees, you can create quizzes and a variety of different types of content, and arrange your courses in different ways. And it's just a really, really awesome tool. So if you're interested in going that route, maybe check them out. I think their prices are fairly reasonable compared to some of the ones others that I've seen out there. That's it. I know that was a ton of information for everyone, and I grazed over a lot of topics, but as I said, digitalmainstreet.ca is still an amazing resource. So you can create your profile for free, create a business profile, and that will give you access to the digital assessment. It will give you access to the more extensive training course, which is, again, where I pulled a lot of this content from. And lastly, it will add you to to my database that we don't email you on any regular basis, but that way we can keep in touch with as we move forward. If you do need support, then having you in the system allows us to just really keep track of what supports we're offering and how we can better provide those supports for other businesses. So with that wrapped up, we're at 11:10. I could probably answer a few questions. Lastly, we've got, will the webinar notes be available? Yes, someone has shared, we've shared the link to that. Someone asks what I think of Weebly. I haven't heard a lot of great things about Weebly, to be honest. Definitely the more popular ones are Wix and Squarespace. I think I've worked with maybe 1 or 2 clients who had Weebly websites, and they did express some frustrations around that. So that's all I can say about that. Sorry if I'm not too, my understanding of Weebly is not the best, but yeah. So I mentioned, mostly just the most popular platforms, and I think that's. Oh, here's a couple of questions. How to change a domain name? How to add a chat box on Squarespace? So yeah, I mean. Chat box on Squarespace, that's a pretty specific question. We can look into that for you if you want to follow up on something like that. That can be something that as Digital Service Squad rep, I can help you with specifically and get it done if it is a possibility. I'd have to look into that because I'm not quite sure. But changing a domain name is fairly simple depending on your platform. So WordPress, it can be a little bit more technical because your domain name is attached to your database, and so you have to kind of jump through a few hoops. I tend to get help from a developer with that kind of thing, or usually your domain registrar, or so if your hosting and domain are from the same company, like GoDaddy.com, you can usually call their technical support, and that's something that they can probably help you with. GoDaddy has typically pretty good customer service, and they should be able to help with that process, or at least help you find the support articles that can help you get through that. But it is possible. It just depends. Squarespace, Wix, Shopify, those will be much easier to change your domain, because your domain will be outside of your website externally, and you're just pointing it to wherever you want. So yeah, a lot easier. So someone has their own domain.com, it's their personal name. How do I go about buying the .ca version? It's pretty simple. I mean, you can just go to a domain registrar. Like I said, GoDaddy is a popular one. I've started using a Canadian one, namespro.ca, and usually you just type the domain you're looking for in the search, and if it's available, they'll show you the cost, and you can just buy it from there. It's usually easier if all your domains are purchased from the same company, just so that it's easier for you to manage. But yeah, if you're not sure who your original is registered with, that's something I can help you with too, probably. is figuring that out and getting it sorted. So you can reach out to me at my email provided. So I think that might be the last of the questions. I'm not sure if Tanya wanted to say anything, but I'll just say thanks to everybody for joining and for sending us your questions in advance. It was really helpful. And again, yeah, if you have any requests for support, my email is in the document, and there's actually a calendar to just sign up for a consult. And again, it's free for the next year, probably. So we're really excited to just continue helping more businesses and artists with your digital marketing.
Thanks, everyone. I think we'll leave it at that. And please get in touch if you have any questions. Have a great day.
Great.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks again. Bye.